In the cold forests and stone villages of 16th century Europe, fear did not sleep. When the sun went down and the wolves howled beyond the trees, people locked their doors, whispered prayers, and watched their neighbors closely. This was not the world of fairy tales or modern horror stories. This was a time when courts of law officially tried human beings for being werewolves, and when judges, priests, and doctors believed that a man could truly become a beast under the light of the moon. Between the 1500s and early 1600s, Europe experienced what historians now call the werewolf trials. Hundreds of men, women, and even children were accused of transforming into wolves, killing livestock, attacking travelers, and devouring human flesh. These were not rumors shared by villagers alone. These accusations were written into legal records, confessed under oath, and punished with execution. The belief in werewolves was deeply connected to religion, famine, war, and fear. Europe was suffering, crops failed, winters were long, and disease spread quickly. Wolves came closer to villages as forests shrank and hunger grew. When a child disappeared or a shepherd was found torn apart, people did not look for natural explanations. They looked for monsters wearing human skin. One of the earliest and most famous werewolf trials took place in Germany in 1589. The accused was a farmer named Peter Stump, also known as Peter Stupp. He lived near the town of Bedburg, where livestock had been slaughtered and children vanished over many years. Witnesses claimed they had seen a wolf attack people, but when wounded, the animal would escape and later be seen as a man with similar injuries. Peter Stump was arrested and tortured. Under extreme pain, he confessed to making a pact with the devil. He claimed Satan had given him a magical belt that allowed him to transform into a wolf at will. As a wolf, he said, he murdered men, women, and children, including members of his own family. He described ripping flesh with his teeth and roaming the countryside at night. Today, historians agree that Stump's confession was almost certainly forced. Torture was legal and commonly used. However, at the time, his words were taken as proof. He was executed in a public square. His body was broken on the wheel. His head was severed, and his remains were displayed as a warning. The message was clear: werewolves were real, and justice would destroy them. France experienced even more werewolf trials than Germany. One of the most chilling cases occurred in 1573, involving a man named Jules Garnier. He lived near the town of Dole, close to dense forests where wolves were common. Children began disappearing, and their bodies were later found mutilated. Garnier was accused after villagers claimed they saw him lurking near the woods at night. During his trial, Garnier confessed that he had been given a magical ointment by a mysterious spirit. By rubbing it on his body, he said, he could become a wolf. He admitted to killing children, feeding on their flesh, and even bringing meat back to his wife. Whether these confessions were true, imagined, or forced is impossible to know. What is known is that the court believed him completely. Gilles Garnier was burned alive. The trial records describe him not as a man, but as a creature beyond human morality. The court did not seek psychological explanations. They believed they were eradicating evil itself. Perhaps the most tragic werewolf trials involved children. In 1603, in the French region of Bordeaux, a young boy named Jean Grenier was accused of being a werewolf. He was only around 13 years old. Villagers claimed he attacked girls while wearing the skin of a wolf. When questioned, Jean calmly stated that he had been given a wolf skin by a mysterious man and that he transformed at night. Unlike many others, Jean Grenier was not executed. The judges believed he was mentally ill rather than possessed by the devil. He was imprisoned in a monastery for the rest of his life. His case stands out as an early moment when madness was considered alongside superstition, though fear still ruled the courtroom. Werewolf trials were closely linked to witch trials. In many cases, accused werewolves were also accused of witchcraft. The belief was that witches and werewolves served the same dark master. The devil supposedly granted witches the power to fly and werewolves the power to transform. Manuals used by inquisitors listed signs of lycanthropy, including strange scars, excessive hair, nocturnal habits, and social isolation. Medical knowledge at the time was limited, but some doctors began to question these beliefs. They described a condition called melancholia, where patients believed they had transformed into animals. Today, this is known as clinical lycanthropy, a rare psychiatric syndrome. However, such explanations were rare and dangerous to voice. Denying the existence of werewolves could mean denying the devil, which itself was heresy. The environment also played a role. Europe's forests were full of real wolves, especially during colder periods. Wolves attack livestock and sometimes people. Rabies, which causes aggression and biting, spread through animals and humans alike. A rabid wolf could kill brutally, leaving wounds that match the imagined attacks of a monster. But the courts did not see animals or disease. They saw sin. They saw divine punishment. They saw the devil walking among them in human form. By the early 17th century, skepticism slowly began to grow. Legal standards improved. Torture became less accepted, and scientific thinking advanced. Werewolf trials declined, just as witch trials did. Monsters did not disappear, but belief in them lost its legal power. What remains today are the records, cold ink on yellowed pages, confessions, testimonies, executions. These were real people living in fear. Judged by the knowledge of their time, the werewolf trials were not stories told to scare children. They were court cases, sentences, and deaths. When we think of werewolves today, we imagine fiction. But for the people of 16th century Europe, the werewolf was as real as the law, the church, and the sword. Fear shaped reality, and reality claimed lives. As the forests grew silent and the trials ended, Europe moved on. But the echoes remain, and every legend, in every full moon story, there is a memory of a time when humanity hunted itself, convinced it was fighting beasts, and somewhere in those dark woods, between fear and ignorance, the true monster was never the wolf,